Are we winning right now?
Oh, I think it's too early to say that we're winning, but I think we have certainly inflicted a lot of damage. But it'll take some time to inflict defeat upon ISIL. And we're still building the coalition, and we're still building the forces, and that's why I'm hesitant to say we're winning. I'm confident we will win.
But there is new news in the fight with ISIS, ISIL, or whatever you may prefer to call it. You're back with the Steve Malzberg Show, and to talk about some of the latest changes, including are now being told that the Iraqi forces have taken back the city of Tikrit, and the one that I find most amazing is that ISIS is seeking a truce. Who better to fill us in on what's really going on here than one of our favorite experts on this area, Jonathan Gilliam, former Navy SEAL and FBI agent, and the president of U.S. Continued Service. Jonathan, welcome.
I like when you say president of United States Continued Service. So people think I'm president.
Is it U.S. Continued Service, United States Continued. Yeah, maybe someday. Yeah, maybe
I
know you have ambition. So, talk to me first about this temporary truce idea. I mean, that just strikes me as bizarre.
It is bizarre. I mean, look, here's the fact. What he just said right there is that this is going to take a long time and we are winning. I would like to know how he measures winning, because, we're not winning anything. There's a covert war that's going on all over the globe, and I can tell you why we're not winning, because they continue to call this ISIS when the reality is it's fundamental Mohammedanism, it's fundamental Islam, it's 1,400 years old, which I keep saying over and over again.
They call themselves ISIS. Isn't that why?
They're a group that's within this war, okay? So you have to realize that there may be a battle with ISIS, but the war itself is global with fundamental Islam. So whatever truce they have, again, that's like if a bully comes up to you at school and says he's going to beat you up, and then meet you after school, and he says, well, maybe we'll talk about it. Are you going to trust that guy and go outside and just think that nothing's going to happen?
Well, this is what I find so odd about the request. If we were to agree, and I certainly hope we wouldn't, but if we were to agree to a truce, it's almost like you're giving them some kind of respect or recognition that I don't think we really want to give them.
It's interesting because
strategic advantage.
You just basically laid out our negotiations with Iran. Mm-hmm. That's basically what
stay on this, and we'll get to that after.
Good for you.
That's basically
stay on this one. Stay on this one.
But see,
isn't that true, though?
That's
Isn't
a good
that
example,
what we'd be doing?
And it's a good example of what is actually happening here. Is you can't negotiate with these individuals.
Right.
You can't try to talk your way or bomb your way out of this. You have to go in and defeat this type of group wherever it springs up, whether it be Al Qaeda in Yemen, now ISIS in Yemen, whether it be Iran, over in Iran, the Iranian government, or if it's ISIS in Syria. The fact is, these are groups that know force. They understand force, and you have to take force to them. If you don't take a complete plan, they're going to defeat you because they have a plan. That's the really bottom line here.
And let's talk about the irony, if you will, that in some places we are actually fighting side by side with Iranian forces, and in other places there are our opponents.
But not ISIL. We're not fighting side by side with
ISIL.
But wait a second. Go ahead.
I don't differentiate between ISIS and ISIL. I'd also
I mean between Iran and ISIL. You would differentiate between them, wouldn't you?
Well, here's the problem, and I don't think people look into this deep enough, is that, this is a Sunni-Shia split, right? Mm-hmm. This happened several generations after Muhammad. It's not an Islamic split, and that's the problem, is that one is going to gain power over the other eventually, and when that happens, you're going to then be fighting that enemy. So it's really all the same movement. It's just right now they're in a power struggle for who's dominant.
What does it tell you that ISIL, if it's true, and it's really hard to know about these things, what does it tell you if in fact ISIL is asking for a truce? What does that mean to you? Are they getting beat? Are they
temporary truce?
Temporary truce. I keep getting reminded it's a temporary truce. What does that say to you?
It just tells me that they have it. That's another tactic. Because you got to remember, this is whenever the word, first of all, temporary truce is thrown in there, that means we need time to maneuver one way or the other. That's
or
basically,
rearm.
Or rearm, exactly. Right. The same thing happens in Israel all the time. There's a temporary ceasefire, temporary truce, and what happens? The battle picks back up again. The same thing here. There's no such thing as a temporary stop to war.
Right. It just exactly.
I want to ask you about the rules of engagement, because you're really an expert as a military man, and I hear again and again a criticism that the president is forcing our forces to do battle with their hands tied behind their backs.
This isn't anything new, and once the DoD became highly politicized, which was even before this president, during the Clinton era, the DoD became very politicized because Clinton, although you can argue or debate whether he kept the status quo here in the United States, a lot of warfighters got out of the military because they didn't agree with the way that he was handling certain incidents, and so what you're left with is higher-ups that are political. You fast forward now this many years later, and there's a lot of decisions that are being made strictly on political basis.
You mean by political kowtowing to the president?
They're not even kowtowing to the president. That is one thing that they do, but they're all looking out for their own careers. And what happened is, at the top of the DoD, the top of law enforcement, you have people looking out for their careers, and when you have an administration that doesn't have a war plan, that signals disaster. Because nobody is saying, hey, this is reality, we should do this.
So let's switch gears a bit, because I want to talk about Tikrit. Yeah, do you buy that the Iraqis have in fact been successful at taking back Tikrit?
I mean, I guess it's possible. We'll see how the reports lay out. But again, whether or not there's a land grab here or a land grab there, it still doesn't do anything to defeat the overall.
But that's a pretty substantial land grab that ISIL did pull off.
Right.
And let's just say because I do take your point. It remains to be seen.
Well,
you can't always trust this
if they
reports.
grabbed it, if
they took it back, is that a real defeat for ISIL?
It won't. It is temporarily. But if we don't step up to the plate and defend the vacuum that we created by going over there, what's going to happen is they'll just take it back.
So would you advocate our going in there at this point?
I've been advocating a full scale.
You think the U.S. should go back?
I think there should be a real coalition, and it should be similar to what happened in Kuwait, where we went in and fought an effective war.
But is it possible to have a real coalition when so many of the possible coalition members don't trust the United States anymore because we're negotiating with Iran?
I'll tell you why that's such an important question. When we take the lead, the coalition works. Period.
Guys, I hate to wrap it up. I could talk to you about this forever, but I'm not allowed to. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to our friends out there and remind them that coming up next, one of your favorite segments, one of mine, the Malzberg Show panel joins us right after this.